Rain clawed at the windows, turning the clinic's glass walls into rippling mirrors of the dark. The night shift had always been quiet here, too quiet. But tonight, something pulsed beneath the silence, a low hum that seemed to come from the bones of the building itself. Lara moved down the corridor with her flashlight trembling in her hand. The power had flickered out 3 times already, and every time it returned, she swore the hallway grew longer. The clinic was half buried in the mountains, surrounded by fog and pine trees that never stopped whispering. The locals called it the clinic that breathes. Lara used to laugh at that. Now, she wasn't sure. A faint sound drifted down the hall, slow, rhythmic beeping. A heart monitor, but there were no admitted patients tonight. The last one had been discharged that morning. She froze. The sound was coming from room 9. That room was supposed to be locked. It was locked. Her shoes squeaked on the linoleum as she approached, pulse hammering in her ears. The door stood slightly ajar, a thin line of cold white light spilling out like breath in the dark. "Hello?" she whispered. Her voice sounded small, swallowed by the hum. The heart monitor beeped again, steady, alive. Lara's fingers brushed the door, pushing it open. The smell of antiseptic and something older, something damp, filled her lungs. Inside, the single hospital bed was occupied. A man lay there still as stone, tubes in his arms, the monitor keeping perfect time. Then the voice came, soft and brittle as a sigh. "Nurse, you came back." For a long moment, Lara could not move. The heart monitor's pulse was slow but steady, an impossible rhythm in a room that had been sealed for years. She stared at the man's face, pale, lips faintly blue, eyelids closed like he was only pretending to sleep. A gust of cold air whispered through the open door. When she blinked, the monitor flatlined. Just a single piercing note, then silence. Her hand reached instinctively for the switch. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The bed was empty. Only the faint impression of a head on the pillow remained. Lara backed out, shut the door, and turned the lock with trembling fingers. The metal felt wet. The morning came gray and damp. The mountains were wrapped in fog, the same way they'd been since the day she arrived 3 months ago. She poured herself burnt coffee in the staff kitchen, the bitter scent doing nothing to calm the knot in her stomach. Ram, the clinic's night orderly, shuffled in wearing his stained uniform and tired eyes. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with a superstition stitched into every word he spoke. "You heard it, didn't you?" he asked quietly. Lara looked up. "Heard what?" "The beeping." He stirred sugar into his tea without looking at her. "It always starts before the rains get worse." "That's ridiculous," she said, forcing a tired laugh. "Room 9 has been closed since before I came here." He finally looked at her, eyes dark and dry like old wood. Then why was the light on? By afternoon, Lara busied herself with patient records, her favorite way to silence thoughts. The clinic only saw a handful of locals, mostly miners and shepherds. Broken bones, infections, frostbite. But every few days, someone would leave before full recovery, mumbling something about the man in the hall. She had asked Dr. Kieran once who that was. "No one," he'd said too quickly. Mountain stories. Dr. Kieran was tall, soft-spoken, with hands that trembled slightly when he wrote prescriptions. He had run this clinic for over a decade, and yet seemed to be waiting for it to end at any moment. When Lara entered his office that evening, he didn't look up from his notes. "Room 9, she began carefully. "Was it ever used?" He froze. His pen hovered above the paper. "No," he said after a long pause. "That section isn't active anymore. You shouldn't concern yourself with it." "But I let it go, Nurse Lara." His voice hardened. "Some doors stay closed for a reason." He dismissed her with a glance that felt more like a warning than authority. Later, when the power flickered again, Lara found herself walking down the corridor toward room 9 as if pulled by a thread. The brass numbers on the door were tarnished, but the faint outline of handprints marked the paint beneath. She touched the cold metal handle. It didn't move. Locked. Then, faintly, something from inside. A slow scrape like nails brushing against metal. She stepped back, heart racing. A shadow slipped beneath the door, like something shifting its weight on the other side. "Ram?" she called softly. No answer. The lights flickered again, buzzing overhead. The corridor seemed to breathe. That night she dreamt of the man on the bed. his mouth moving soundlessly, eyes open, staring straight at her. When she woke, her pulse monitor on the bedside table was flashing. 02:11 a.m., the same time she had heard the beeping. Morning rounds were uneasy. The clinic's few patients avoided her gaze, whispering to each other. When Lara entered room 3 to check on an elderly woman recovering from pneumonia, the patient caught her wrist with surprising strength. "Don't stay after dark," the woman rasped. "He's waiting for you," Lara froze. "Who?" The woman's eyes darted to the window, then the hallway, the one they left alone. By evening, the storm rolled in again. Wind pressed against the clinic walls, howling through the vents. Ram stayed close to the generator room, muttering prayers under his breath. Lara sat in the records office, unable to focus. Her fingers brushed a dusty cabinet marked Archives. Inside, she found patient folders older than the building itself, names smudged, ink faded, and then one caught her eye. Patient 9, Adil Rahman. Date of admission, 10 years ago. Status, discharged, deceased. Her pulse thudded in her throat. The file was thin, just a single page, handwritten in a hurried scrawl. Severe trauma, unresponsive, stable vitals for 3 days. Expired after night shift, exact time unknown. She turned the page over. Someone had added a note in newer ink. "He's still here." The sound of thunder cracked through the clinic. The light above her desk flickered once, twice, then went out. For a moment, the whole clinic seemed to hold its breath. And then from the corridor came that same steady, distant beep. Room 9, again Lara stood up slowly. Clutching the folder to her chest, Ram's voice echoed faintly from the hallway. "Don't answer when he calls," but she was already walking toward the sound. The power went out at 2:11 a.m. Lara woke to the cold hush of blackout. Her clock blinked once before dying, its digital numbers fading into the dark. The only sound was the steady hiss of rain striking the windows like sand. She waited for the backup generator to kick in. It didn't then. Beep, soft, far away, familiar. Her hand reached instinctively for the flashlight beside her bed. Its beam cut through the blackness, trembling as she aimed it toward the door. The corridor beyond was swallowed in shadow. Beep. The sound was patient, persistent, coming from room 9. She told herself it was an electrical fault, an old monitor sparking back to life. The clinic was decades old. Nothing worked right here, but her body moved before logic could stop it. Bare feet on cold tile, the smell of disinfectant and rain. The door to room 9 waited at the end of the corridor, a darker patch of dark. The air grew heavier as she neared. Her flashlight flickered. "Hello?" she whispered. The beeping stopped. Then a slow inhale, soft and wet, filled the silence from behind the door. Lara froze. The sound of breathing. She didn't remember running back to her room. Only the slam of her door and the frantic beat of her pulse. She stayed awake till dawn, listening to the storm batter the roof like fists. When morning light seeped through, the clinic was eerily calm. Dr. Kiran sat in the cafeteria reading a report, his coffee untouched. Ram was nowhere to be seen. "You didn't sleep," Kiran said without looking up. "I heard someone," Lara muttered. From room 9, Kiran's pen stopped mid-stroke. "There is no room 9, Nurse Lara," she frowned. "I was there last night." "The door—" He stood abruptly, his chair scraping. "That part of the building was condemned years ago. It's not safe. You must have wandered near the generator wing." "But—" His voice cut sharp, brittle. "Forget what you think you heard." Lara stared at him. His eyes were ringed with exhaustion, but something else hid there, too. Fear. "Doctor," she said softly, "what happened in that room?" He hesitated, then exhaled slowly. A mistake. One that shouldn't be repeated. Before she could ask more, he turned and left, the paper on his clipboard trembling in his hands. That afternoon, Ram returned, face pale, eyes distant. He refused to meet Lara's gaze. "You shouldn't keep asking about him," he said, voice low. "Curiosity gets punished here." "Who is him?" Lara asked. Ram hesitated. "The soldier. The one they couldn't let go." The whispers began that night. Not voices exactly, more like words shaped from air, slipping through vents and cracks in the walls. Her name carried in them stretched and distorted, Lara. She searched every corner of her room, checked the intercom, even opened the window to listen to the wind. But the sound always came from inside. At 2:11 a.m., her bedside clock blinked to life again. The power flickered once, and a weak male voice whispered through the intercom. "Nurse." "My medicine." Lara's heart dropped. The intercom wasn't connected to that wing anymore. She grabbed her flashlight and the folder she'd found the night before, Adil Rahman. The page crackled in her trembling hands. Under the note, "He's still here." Something new had appeared. A faint outline, wet, red, as if drawn with a finger dipped in blood. It read, "You were the last one to see him. Morning." She found Dr. Kieran at his desk, staring at an old photograph, a team of 5 medical staff standing outside the clinic, 10 years younger. Lara's breath caught. The woman beside Kieran, the nurse, looked exactly like her, not similar. The same. Her hand shook as she pointed. "Who is she?" Kieran looked up slowly. His face had gone ashen. "That's impossible. Tell me." He swallowed hard. "Her name was Layla. You look like her." She was the nurse on duty the night Adil Rahman died. Lara felt the room tilt slightly, her vision narrowing. "What happened to her?" "She left," he said, voice breaking. "Or we thought she did." That evening, she cornered Ram by the supply shelves. "Tell me what you know." He shook his head violently. No, talking about him makes him stronger. Please." His hands trembled. They brought Adil from the mountain base. He was half dead, frostbite, hypoxia, burns. But he wasn't supposed to survive that long. He kept calling for someone. Nurse Layla. When she finally came, he grabbed her wrist, begged her not to leave him. They said she stayed with him for 3 nights. On the 4th, she ran. He died before dawn, and after that, Ram's eyes darted to the hallway. After that, his heart kept beating on the monitor. No one could turn it off. The wires burned through, but the sound stayed. By now, Lara's reflection looked wrong. Paler, thinner, her eyes sunken from sleepless nights. Sometimes, when she passed a mirror, the reflection lagged a half-second behind. She started keeping notes. Times, sounds, smells, flashes of memory that didn't belong to her. 4:47 p.m., smell of antiseptic and iron. 2:11 a.m., voice through intercom again. Said, "You promised." The more she wrote, the more the handwriting shifted, tilted, looping into letters she didn't recognize. A week later, Dr. Kieran called her into his office. He looked older, shoulders hunched. "There's something I never filed," he said, opening a small locked drawer. Inside was a cassette tape labeled Patient 9, Night 4. He played it. Static hissed. Then faint breathing. Then a weak male voice, "Nurse, don't go." And a woman's voice, shaking, "I'm sorry, Adil, I can't." Then screaming. Metal clattering. The beeping of a heart monitor rising, then flatlining. The tape cut off. Kieran's hands trembled. We sealed the room after that. No one went near it again. But sometimes, even after we cut the power, we still heard the monitor, like he was waiting for her return. Lara stared at the player. "You said she left." He met her eyes. "We never found her body. That night she couldn't resist." The truth was too close now. The storm raged harder than ever. Rain flooded the windows, wind howled through vents, and thunder rolled like a heartbeat beneath the earth. At 2:11 a.m., she heard the intercom crackle again. "Nurse, you came back." Lara rose from her bed, her bare feet trailing water that wasn't there a moment ago. The air smelled of the sea, though the mountains were miles from any shore. Her body moved as if guided by memory. Step by step toward room 9, the corridors stretched, longer, darker. The fluorescent lights blinked in slow rhythm, keeping time with the faint beep-beep growing louder. The door stood open. A single light burned inside. The bed was occupied again. Adil lay there, his face exactly as she'd seen in the folder's photo. Sunken eyes, stitched skin, bandages soaked yellow with time. His lips moved. "Layla." She shook her head, tears blurring her vision. "My name is Lara." He smiled faintly. "You changed it." Her knees weakened. "What do you want from me?" His eyes opened fully now, gray, glassy. "The promise." She stumbled back, fleeing to the nurse's station. When she looked at the clock, it still read 2:11 a.m. It hadn't moved. The walls pulsed faintly, like something alive beneath the plaster. The intercom buzzed again, faint whispers filling every room. "Nurse Layla, don't leave. Stay. Stay." Lara pressed her palms to her ears and screamed. The power surged back on. Lights blazed. Silence fell. But the folder, Adil Rahman, lay open on her desk, pages fluttering though no wind blew. A new note had appeared at the bottom. You left me once. You don't leave again. The next morning, Dr. Kiran didn't show up for rounds. His office door was locked. Ram found a note slipped under it. Forgive me. He chose her now. When they broke the door down, the office was empty. The windows were wide open, rain pooling on the floor. By the third night, Lara stopped trying to sleep. She spent her hours pacing the corridor, flashlight dead, whispering to herself to stay awake. But the clinic no longer obeyed logic. Rooms shifted. Hallways looped back. She opened a supply closet and stepped into a patient ward. And always, the faint beep. When she finally found the courage to enter room 9 again, she brought the recorder from Kiran's office. I just need to know, she whispered. Pressing record, Adil's form was clearer this time. Less corpse, more man. His chest rose and fell slowly. Why me? She asked, his lips twitched. Because you're the only one who came back. Back from where? From the part that forgot. Her tears fell freely now. I'm not her. He smiled faintly, the corners of his mouth cracking. You are now. Something snapped behind her. The door closed on its own. The recorder whined with static. Through it, her own voice whispered back, stay till my pulse stops. The heart monitor's rhythm quickened. Adil's eyes rolled back, veins darkening beneath translucent skin. It's almost time, he breathed. For what? His grin widened. For you to remember what you did. Flashes. Lara on her first night 10 years ago, her name tag reading Layla. Adil writhing in pain, whispering her name. The other nurses begging her to rest, but she refused. Then, his hand clutching her wrist, blood on her sleeve, eyes wide with terror. Don't leave me, please. I'll be right back, she'd said. And she never returned. She had fled the room, the clinic, the memory. Changed her name. Rebuilt her life, until the assignment brought her back to the mountains. The heart monitor wailed. Lara fell to her knees beside the bed. I'm sorry. Adil's hand rose, fingers brushing her cheek. Cold. Dead. Stay, he whispered. Her body shook violently. I can't. Then I'll wait again. The monitor flatlined. The lights burst out, darkness then, her own voice calm and empty. Nurse, it's time for my medicine. The clinic had become a labyrinth of light and shadow. Every hallway led to another version of itself, longer, narrower, colder. Lara walked barefoot, her footsteps echoing faintly, as though the walls themselves were whispering them back. Rain lashed against the windows. But beyond the glass, there was no outside, only fog, endless and white. She no longer carried her flashlight. The light followed her now, humming weakly overhead, dying and reviving in rhythm with her heartbeat. Every clock in the clinic showed the same frozen time, 2:11 a.m. In the nurse's station, papers fluttered, though the air was still. The old intercom crackled to life again. Nurse, are you awake? Lara stared at the receiver. The voice was no longer distant. It came from inside the walls. Her throat tightened. Adil? A pause. Then, you left me alone for so long. I didn't. The sound of the heart monitor pulsed faintly in the background. Beep. 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 You promised, the voice said again, softer this time. Like a memory echoing inside her skull, Lara stumbled toward room 9. The corridor seemed endless, lined with shadowed doors, each one whispering behind it. When she finally reached the end, the door to room 9 was wide open, its hinges sighing with the draft. Inside, everything gleamed with unnatural brightness. The floor was clean, the sheets white, the instruments polished. Too new for this crumbling place. Adil lay on the bed again. But this time he was sitting up. His eyes were open, and he was smiling. Layla, he said, his voice low and hollow. You found your way back. I'm not... She stopped herself. The words felt false on her tongue. Adil extended a trembling hand toward her. You were always the kind one. You stayed when the others left. You said I wouldn't die alone. Her stomach turned. That wasn't me. I wasn't here. I don't remember. You remember, he said gently. You just tried to forget. He gestured to the chair beside his bed, the same metal chair from her dreams. It scraped the floor slightly, moving on its own, inviting her to sit. Lara hesitated, then sat. Her legs felt like glass. Adil watched her, smiling faintly. His chest rose and fell in slow, labored rhythm. The monitor beside him blinked weakly with each breath. "I waited," he said. "Years passed, but time stopped here, you see?" Still 2:11. Lara's hands trembled in her lap. "Why me?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because you were the last face I saw before I died." The lights flickered. The world tilted. For a moment, Lara wasn't in room 9 anymore. She was back then, a decade ago. A younger version of herself, Layla, sat beside the same bed, holding Adil's wrist, whispering to him through tears. "You're not dying on my shift, Adil. Not tonight. Promise?" "Promise." Then the explosion of thunder. Power failure. Alarms screaming. She ran for help just for a minute. When she returned, he was gone, and so was she. Her memory fractured. Her identity splintered. Lara was born the night Layla fled. The vision snapped back. The room was darker now. Adil's eyes glowed faintly, pupils wide and hungry. "You ran before," he said. "You can't run again." Lara stood, shaking. "I didn't mean to. You left me to die alone." His voice layered, Adil's tone, and beneath it, a dozen others, all whispering, "Stay, stay, stay." The machines around the room began to twitch, cables writhing like veins. The monitor's green light pulsed faster, syncing with her heartbeat. Lara backed toward the door, but it was gone. The wall had sealed behind her. She turned to see Adil rising from the bed, the tubes falling from his arms like shed skin, the sheets darkened beneath him, soaked in something black and thick. "You took my breath," he said, stepping toward her. "So I'll take yours." She stumbled, hitting the medical cart. Instruments clattered to the floor. "Please," she whispered. "You're not real." He smiled wider. "Neither are you." The lights above them exploded one by one, showering sparks. The fog pressed against the windows until the glass cracked like thin ice. The intercom screamed with static, then played the same moment over and over. "Nurse Layla, don't leave me." Lara's knees hit the floor. "I'm sorry. I was scared." Adil knelt in front of her, face inches from hers. His skin was cold and slick, like wax left too long in the dark. "You should be." He reached out. His fingers touched her neck. Feather light. The heart monitor beside them began to pulse faster. Beep, 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 then stopped. Everything went still. Lara gasped, but no air entered. Her lungs wouldn't obey. The room thickened with silence, heavy and suffocating. Adil leaned closer until his forehead touched hers. "Now we're the same." She choked, eyes wide, trying to scream, but sound wouldn't come. And then, his hand moved to her chest. His palm pressed flat against her heartbeat. A surge of freezing pain shot through her body as if something were being pulled from her, drawn out, thread by thread. Her vision blurred. The walls pulsed red, alive. The smell of rot filled the air. The voice came from everywhere now, hundreds whispering in perfect rhythm. "Stay till my pulse stops." Her pulse slowed. "Stay till my pulse stops." Slower. "Stay till..." Her hand shot forward on instinct, grabbing the defibrillator from the cart. "Enough," she screamed, slamming the paddles against his chest. A blinding flash filled the room, blue, sharp, electric. Adil's body convulsed. The heart monitor screamed to life, then flatlined again. When the light faded, he was gone. The bed was empty. The monitor still blinked, steady and green. Beep, beep, beep. Lara stood there, shaking. The smell of smoke and ozone burned her throat. She turned to the door, and this time, it was there again, slightly open. A breath of cool air swept in, carrying the faint scent of pine and wet earth. She stepped out into the corridor. It was daylight. The clinic was silent, spotless as though no storm had ever come. But as she walked toward the entrance, she noticed something strange. Every room she passed had a bed occupied, each by a version of her. Sleeping, breathing, some older, some younger, all wearing the same uniform, all with the same name tag. Layla. Her knees weakened. She stumbled backward, hands trembling. The intercom clicked again. "Nurse Lara, report to room 9. Her blood froze. Patient condition, stable." She turned slowly toward the hallway she had just left. At the far end, the door to room 9 stood open again. Light spilled out, soft and golden this time. She felt drawn to it. Like gravity, like fate. Her steps echoed one by one until she stood before the doorway. Inside, the bed was occupied again, but not by Adil, by her. Her own body lay motionless, eyes closed, monitors steady. The same faint beep-beep marked her heart rhythm. Her reflection stared back from the polished metal of the bed frame, smiling faintly. Then the intercom whispered, "Thank you. Nurse, you can rest now." The world tilted. Lara's body slumped, boneless, as the lights dimmed around her. The heartbeat on the monitor began to fade, replaced by another, faint, unfamiliar, deeper. Adil's. His voice returned, tender, almost loving. "You kept your promise." The monitor steadied. Beep. 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 2 heartbeats in one rhythm. The clinic lights flickered, and for the first time in years, room 9 went completely dark. Morning broke over the mountains like a secret reluctantly told. Pale sunlight spilled through the mist, touching the roof of the old clinic and casting long, soft shadows over the drenched pine trees. Inside, the corridors gleamed too clean for a place that should have been abandoned long ago. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled faintly of antiseptic and earth, like the space between memory and dream. The receptionist's desk was empty. No files, no papers, no trace of life. The clock above it ticked steadily, showing 8:03 a.m. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Dr. Kamran parked his Jeep outside the clinic, boots sinking into wet mud. He had driven 3 hours through the fog after receiving the emergency call. Something about a code blue from an unstaffed facility. The clinic had been closed for nearly a decade. He stepped inside, expecting decay, dust, maybe raccoons nesting in the corners. Instead, the reception looked recently used. Clean floors, fresh linen smell, power running, and faintly, from somewhere deep inside, a rhythmic sound. Beep. Beep, beep. A working heart monitor. He frowned. Impossible. Kamran followed the sound through the hallways, his steps echoing softly. Every few meters, he caught glimpses of something. Shadows moving past glass. Reflections turning their heads when he didn't. When he reached room 9, the door was open. A nurse stood beside the bed, adjusting a saline drip. Her white uniform was crisp, hair tied neatly, her name tag glinting faintly. Lara, staff nurse. Kamran blinked. "Excuse me, who authorized you to reopen this wing?" The nurse looked up slowly. Her face was calm, almost serene. "Oh, doctor," she said. "We've been waiting for you." "We?" She gestured toward the bed. Kamran's breath caught. A man lay there, unconscious but alive, connected to machines that should have long since stopped working. The monitor beeped softly, green line steady. His chart, clipped neatly to the foot of the bed, read, "Patient name, Adil Hassan condition, stable. Admitted, February 11th, 2015." Kamran's eyes widened. That's not possible. This patient died 10 years ago. "I signed the report myself." Lara tilted her head, the faintest smile curling her lips. "No one ever really leaves, doctor." "Not here." He stared at her. "Who are you?" The nurse didn't answer. She turned to adjust the heart monitor. Her movements were precise, practiced, too calm. Kamran reached out to touch her shoulder. His hand passed right through. He stumbled back, gasping. The air around her shimmered faintly, like heat rising from asphalt. The nurse turned to him again, her eyes, soft, brown, and sad, meeting his. "Please," she whispered, "don't wake him." "He's resting now." The lights flickered. The heart monitor skipped a beat, then steadied, and Lara was gone. Kamran stood frozen for a long moment. Then, heart racing, he checked the equipment. Real, solid, working. The machines hummed, the IV dripped, and Adil's chest rose and fell. He backed toward the door. This can't be real. The intercom crackled to life, its old speaker hissing softly. "Dr. Kamran, report to the nurse's station." His blood turned cold. The voice was unmistakable. Lara's. He forced himself to turn the corner toward the station. There, on the counter, lay a single patient file. Edges yellowed, paper brittle but legible. His name was written on it. Inside, one line was circled in red ink. Primary cause of death, negligence during power outage. He stared, horrified. That was the case that ended his field career 10 years ago. He had blamed the young nurse who was on shift. Layla, her name was. She vanished the next morning. He remembered her eyes, wide, tearful, begging him not to leave the patient unattended. He left anyway. And now, her face looked exactly like the nurse he had just seen. The monitor in room 9 beeped louder. Faster, frantic. Kamran rushed back. Adil's body convulsed slightly. His lips moved. His eyes opened, glassy and distant. "Layla?" he whispered. Kamran froze. "Layla," Adil said again, staring at the ceiling. "You kept your promise." Then the monitor flatlined. Kamran grabbed the defibrillator. "No, no, no, stay with me, Adil." He shocked once, twice, nothing. He dropped to his knees, chest heaving. But then he heard breathing. Not from Adil, from behind him. Slow, calm, familiar. He turned. Lara stood in the doorway again, her uniform now faintly stained with blood at the cuffs. She smiled gently. "You can stop now, Doctor." "He's home." Kamran's throat tightened. You're dead." "Maybe. But this place remembers the ones who break their promises." Her gaze softened, almost pitying. "You should go, before it remembers you too." He staggered backward. "What is this place?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. A waiting room between guilt and forgiveness. Then the power flickered again. When the lights returned, she was gone. So was Adil's body. Only the monitor remained, quietly beeping, 2 heartbeats instead of 1. Beep, beep. Beep, beep. By the time the rescue team arrived, Kamran was gone too. All they found was a single file on the desk and a nurse's name tag beside it. Half buried in dust. Layla, staff nurse. The clinic was sealed again. Months later, hikers passing through the valley claimed to see faint lights glowing from the windows of the abandoned building. Sometimes, they swore they heard voices, soft, rhythmic, like someone whispering instructions during a night shift. And if you stood close enough to the cracked glass, you could see a woman's reflection staring back from the dark, calm, gentle, and sad. Her hands moved as though tending to an invisible patient. A faint voice echoed from the wind through the pines. "Nurse Lara." Check the pulse, then faintly, beep, beep, beep. And if you listened long enough, you'd realize it wasn't 1 heartbeat, it was 2.